Thank you for that warm welcome, and I hope some of you got to partake in the Seattle coffee that I did this morning as well, since we're known for that in the region. I wanted to start today with my section to really lay the groundwork for you all to understand who Bill and I are as a couple and why it is that we do this work in education in the United States, why we so deeply believe in it. We founded the foundation with one simple premise, and that premise is that all lives have equal value, no matter where they're lived on the planet. So whether it's Boston or Bangladesh or Nairobi or New Delhi or New York, all lives have equal value. But we don't treat lives like they have equal value necessarily. And everybody deserves to grow up and have a healthy life. But when we look around the globe, we didn't see that happening. And so we said to ourselves as a couple, if that's our moral view of the world and we want to live it out from the foundation, we are lucky enough, and Bill and I discussed this during the time we were engaged, that the resources that had come from Microsoft would go back to society. And if we were lucky enough to do something about that, to live in a great society like the United States, we wanted to found a foundation that would help live out that value. We not only went to where our passion was inside, and I think that's an important thing when you're doing work, but we also went to where the data showed us how we wanted to act or where we might act. And what we landed on for the international work that we do is global health. And the reason we do work on health globally, which you probably know, is because it's what allows somebody to begin that trajectory in life. If you don't start out healthy and have that chance to live a healthy life, you can't go on then to get a great education and then to work and fulfill your dreams. So globally, we work on global health. But in the United States, all of the evidence pointed straight to one thing, and that was education. That education, that fantastic American idea that if we created an education system, it was the bridge, it was the opportunity for people to fulfill their dreams. And that wasn't being lived out for all students in the United States. And so we decided that that's where we would focus our work. We started to learn what other foundations had done in the United States, both in education and other areas. And we came to understand, we thought about our role as well. And our belief is that the only thing really a foundation can do, and I know our foundation looks very large, in the foundation space it is, but if you're trying to solve a very difficult fundamental problem in society, like helping fix the US education system, you have to look that the scale is really government funding. That is the huge funding. So all a foundation or philanthropy can do is look at ways of taking some of that risk, trying new things, and then helping the government scale up some experiments that work, or take lessons that you learn in one area and make sure they get scaled up so they work for everybody. So when we started to look outside and to say what it is that we wanted to do, we also then said to ourselves, okay, so in education, why is it that we believe in education? Well, we believe because it is that opportunity to fulfill our dreams. And where does that come from in us? It comes because Bill and I both grew up in families, and in fact, Bill's dad, Bill Sr., is here today. You want to raise your hand, Bill? We both grew up in families that valued deeply education. One of the first things I learned from Bill Bill's mom about him was that she, when he was a young child, had to tell him not to read at the dinner table. And when I first started to join some of these family dinners at the Gates household in my mid-20s, I learned that if somebody didn't know a word that was brought up at the table, you went and got the dictionary and looked it up. And I thought that was pretty great. And in my household growing up, my dad was an engineer. He was working on the Apollo space programs. I loved math and science, and he helped my sister and I know that we could be good in math and science. But we had 4 kids in our household, and it was clear that my dad's engineering salary wasn't going to put us through college. My parents started a real estate business on the side, and they bought a computer you might not have heard of, an Apple III. And we started not only keeping the accounting books for my parents' real estate business, but fiddling around with computers and starting to program. That led me to computer science in college, to Microsoft, and I guess you'd sort of say history says the rest. But Bill and I both believe that this truism that what you learn and are curious about when you're young also becomes who you are as adults. And our parents in both families gave us the message that we would be college going, that was our opportunity to fulfill whatever it was we wanted to do in life. And so Bill and his 2 sisters went to college, my 3 siblings and I went to college. Bill didn't quite get the message that you were supposed to stay in college, but that was a different story, I think. But in addition, our parents really believe that you give something back to your community. I was very surprised to learn that Bill stood outdoors with a sandwich board on him because of his dad in rush hour that was in support of the Seattle School Public Levy, the tax levy. And I spent many, many, many hours in high school volunteering at the local public school, and I could see how difficult that classroom environment was for that teacher with students who started mid-year and spoke many different languages. So when we came to the U.S. education system, it was because of our gut. We told us that it was the right thing to do, but we also went out and learned from the literature. We wanted to see what had been tried, what had been done, this great American invention, why wasn't it working for so many students, given that it's the bridged opportunity? And Bill's going to explain in just a minute what we've learned from our strategy over time and what the evidence is now saying. But what I wanted to tell you a little bit also about is that besides data, and you need data to know how to act and to know how to make sure a school system can serve all students, not just a section of students. But data is only part of the story. Bill and I like to call ourselves nerds. It's a term that we use endearingly in our household. Last night, our 13-year-old daughter, when we were talking about something about global health over the dinner table, also said we were dorks. I'm still trying to decide if that's a term of endearment. But mixing quantitative data with qualitative data is really important if you're going to work on something as deeply as education. So we've traveled, as Alan said, quite a bit around the United States. We've been in and out of schools in New York, LA, Chicago, Houston, Memphis. We were in community colleges in North Carolina, California, Florida. We, in Washington State, travel all the way from early learning centers to K through 12 to post-secondary. And it's because of what we pick up on that trip that we can see whether it matches the data of what we're hearing. And what we learn on those trips informs our strategy. The first trip I ever took to a high school outside of Washington State will remain with me forever. And it was in the Boston housing projects. And when I walked into the school, I was there to meet with a group that was together, principal, teachers, and kids. And the principal ended up coming quite late to the meeting. And when he rushed in, he apologized profusely, but there had been a drug incident going on in the school's corner, and a gang was trying to pull some of his students in. And he had gone and intervened and then showed up to this meeting. But what I saw inside this Boston public school was an environment that was not only safe for the kids, but was a place they could learn. And the students said, people knew my name on the first day of school. My teachers gave me their cell phone number. They trusted me enough. And what I saw in that school for the first time was immense caring paired with very high expectations. Now, some years later, Bill and I visited a KIPP school down in Houston. And I'm from Dallas, so I don't go to Houston regularly. There's a bit of a rivalry there. But I'd heard about KIPP in Houston. We wanted to go see it. And the thing we learned in that school, talking to the teachers, was a teacher who said she didn't realize how much she didn't know. She was like one of the best teachers in the school, and she said she came to realize through her work that she needed to go to that place she was asking her students to go, that place of being uncomfortable, that when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're starting to learn something new. And I thought, wow, that's a teacher who's learning her own craft and taking it apart and making sure that she's learning along with her students. We were just recently in a school in Eagle County, Colorado. We met a young man named Josh Knight, and he was a sophomore in school. He'd really struggled to do writing. And he said, you know what? I take my writing to my teacher, Mr. Knight. Mr. Knight is my hero because I take it to him and he helps me learn what I don't know, and he'll give me rewrites. and I write some more again, and I go back to him and he edits again. I go back, I write some more, he edits again. He said, Mr. Knight believes in me, and he's the smartest person I know. Those stories, and the stories that you heard this morning from the group who was just individually each up on stage, they're what motivate us to do this work. They motivate us to keep going, and they motivate us to make sure we have the large-scale evidence that says, are we moving this system forward with great teachers in every classroom with high expectations so that students can learn what they need to learn at every step along the way and ultimately get into college and fulfill their own dreams. So sometimes this work, as Alan said, is really hard. And in fact, when Bill and I come home from our global health trips, and we're out in remote places trying to see how the vaccine system is working in rural Africa or in Pakistan, countries in rural Africa or in Pakistan, we still say that the work we're doing in education in the US system is the hardest work that we do. But when I reflect on how hard it is to do, I realize Bill and I aren't doing it every day. You all are the ones, the partners that we work with that are out in the trenches doing the work every day. It's a big job, it's a complex job, but it is absolutely and fundamentally critical for the United States to get this right. We have to push for equity in this country through education. That's what education does. So you continue to make it part of your daily lives, and for that you deserve not only our support, but the deepest gratitude from every American in this country. Thank you.